A lot of comments were asking me to review the arsenal within Broken Arrow, so we're going to take a bit of a unique approach. I'm going to talk about how I'd use them in a tactical situation and how I'd use them on the battlefield. I think that's more fun than talking about how the graphics look. We will cover that in each video, but there's so many vehicles we can talk about, especially on the US side, like Recon, where the varying differences are just going to be like minor tweaks to weight, amount of units, things like that. And overall, that's more of a PvP, and I really want to talk about how I'd use these in a scenario or something kind of small, little tactical engagement. I think that's a lot of fun, and it kind of gives you a bit of an in-depth view on how these vehicles could be used on the battlefield. So obviously we're going to focus on the Armored Knight first because he's number one. And the one thing that's unique about this vehicle is it has that laser designator that's going to coincide with, I believe, certain types of precision-guided ammunition, so like the Excalibur rounds. I wonder if it's going to also pair with certain, make JDAMs more accurate or other types of laser-guided munitions. I think that would be really fun. A bit micro-y, but it really depends on the tactical level of where the developers go for each scenario. You know what I'm talking about? So I think that's really fun. We're just going to briefly talk about these statistics right here, like stealth, weight, and then the amount of people, then top speed. Every vehicle is going to have varying top speeds, varying stealth, and I think the lowest stealth I've seen, so one's the highest I've seen, lowest, which means lower, which means more stealthy, would be like your Marine Scout snipers, which is at like a 0.31, and that's really how the game's going to be balanced. Obviously, it's going to be balanced around armor, weight, speed, stealth, and then the range. So if we come over here to the M2 Browning, this is kind of going to be the dominating factor within Broken Arrow, like the max range, that what kind of vehicles it can engage. Like this M2 Browning can engage ground, infantry, vehicles, and helicopter. Has an effective range of like 1,200 meters. It can suppress, and it has a penetration of like 24 to 48 kinetic. All of that's within this. So there's basically like 50 things we could talk about. And I think this is like really cool because you see, we move on to this Humvee, and we're just going to touch on each little vehicle. We can like change the weapon systems, and we'll get more into that because that's going to change later on. These tires look gigantic though. Oh my God. I found these plasticky looking windows really unique because it reminds me of like early war when units would deploy with their own equipment. And like for our humanitarian missions, we would have like little Humvees with like plastic windows on them. So that's just fun, a cool little feature. I don't know if that's intentional, if that's just a graphical error. And then obviously their tire. And then you can change the weapon systems, ammo boxes. The ammo boxes is really cool that they're on top too, because, you know, it makes me laugh because it reminds me when I come back, I used to watch a lot of documentaries on like Afghanistan and Iraq, and people would tell you how they'd be in a firefight and they'd have to pull weapons from like outside of the vehicle and reload the gun and just some silly stuff like that. I don't know if anyone finds that funny, but that's just, like, from a developer standpoint, that's really interesting that that's there, because I know when someone designed that vehicle, they're like, we'll just put the bullets on the outside. Oh, while you're getting shot at. Anyway, here's the Force Recon, guys. Like I said, everything's just going to be balanced around stealth. AT4s, what they can be used. The M27 is interesting because I believe that's a new standard rifle for the Marines. I'm going to talk a lot about their camos because there is some weird camo choices. This one does look like maybe OCPs, but if you look at the Army OCPs, they look a bit different. These rucksacks are also massive, man. I mean, maybe that's to be a bit more immersive, but could you imagine? These guys are like going like into a firefight a lot of the times in this, so that's a bit much. They're going to be moving real slow. Regardless, here we're going to take a look at some of the varying types of Humvees. Obviously, like, a lot of the NATO stuff's really weathered and dirty, especially at the beginning. But once we start talking about other things, you'll notice that like some of the graphic details kind of wind down, so they're not fully done. That's really cool though. I like how they did that. This one's cool because like this one comes with like a laser designated, the Humvee LRASS, and like it's all based around like their optics and everything. What kind of weapons? This one comes with a 240, good for suppressing people. Looks like a little smoke discharger on it. I don't see it up here on the right hand side though. This vehicle is really cool. I hope we get some like minor nations within this game because, like, obviously Russia versus NATO or the US or UK, it's just going to be a lot of leopards, chieftains, depending on the air. And so having these little nations could be fun, doing like little joint scenarios, especially when designing your own stuff. I like this vehicle. We start moving into MRAPs, obviously laser designators, how this one's going to be balanced. It looks like it has a laser. This one you can't really adjust any of the armor or anything, a little tow cable. Looks fun. Tire on the back. I don't remember if that's where they put the tires, but it probably is. And it's not an MRAP, it's a JLTV MK19. And then looks like it has an MK19. What's that, a grenade launcher? Cool blast radius of 6 meters. So a 12 meter diameter. Then we come over here, this little frog looking dude. This video should be like, make a tier list of how much of these vehicles look like amphibious creatures. This vehicle is amphibious too, so that actually does make sense, and it won't let me bring it up. So we're gonna hide the UI. We're just gonna swirl around like gas tanks on the outside. So shovels, exhaust ports, more gas, doors on the back. Overall, looks like an angry little frog to me. I could see this being useful, but if I could bring up the LAV, I remember in the mission, it wasn't just that much fun to use on the battlefield. It got kind of wiped out by the anti-tank quite easily. This one's really funny. This guy has a bunch of armor on him. He even has the shoulder pads. This is a light attack vehicle. Lights aren't on. Doesn't really look like an amphibious creature. Not really an amphibious vehicle, so why would it? Has varying different weapons on it. One thing that's unique about it is these bags right here. If I had to dismount this vehicle, I would stumble over that bag and under the wheels, especially if it were attacking an oil field in Iraq, right? I believe these were like offloaded on C-130s during the initial assault, and they got stuck in the oil, if I remember. I forget what the books that's from. So that's just how I think about it. Interesting little vehicle. I like it because it's fast and it could be fun to use. Just kind of harass the enemy, especially on their back line, and conduct a little recon. Maybe put some scout snipers in there and just shoot the infantry as they walk up. Here we go. Oh, moving on to the M117 Guardian. Not really amphibious or froggy looking. Don't really look angry. Weapons he has, MK19 gun turret. So you can either have an infantry guy in the back right here if he wants to catch a grenade, but he is protected by sniper fire. So stay out of crowds, and hopefully no grenades come flying in the back, right? Someone might have nothing to lose. That's how I would think of that. Bradley, this game has endless amounts of Bradley. This one has the armor package on it, the reactive armor. I want to know how that's going to work. So explosives, stopping explosives are always interesting. It looks okay. Not quite like a fish. Has a tow missile on it. Has a varying weight. I guess that's going to come into play when you want to airlift things in. Has a decent line of sight. And then another Bradley. This one doesn't have the tow, though. It has... What does it have on it? What's this? Worse optics. What is this system right here? What's that, guys? It doesn't say over here on the right-hand side. I don't know what that is. This can be paradrop, though. So it can be airdrop. So you can get this close to the front line without... And you have the little cannon on it. But I don't know. But you're sacrificing a tow for some reason. These cool vehicles, I like them. See, and this is why we're trying to speed through a little bit. We still have all of these on the right-hand side. This guy looks like a short little Megatron. Fun little vehicle I would use on the battlefield just to have fun. He gets different types of weapons. Honestly, I don't know how the UAVs are going to be used. Preferably, I'd use them more as a standoff. Not even a standoff. Like, maybe just to harass something. Oh, he's Navy, too. I think that's like the first Navy thing other than the Hornet. So second. Yeah, I'm not sure how I'd use this unit yet. I think I just got to get him on the battlefield, especially when designing scenarios. How would I use this? Especially in an irregular warfare scenario, I would use him to harass like maybe some insurgents or maybe some Russians doing some recon on some Wagner is how I heard it was said today. Do a little drone recon. Same thing with this. Can someone let me know if this is the correct fins for the Reaper? I think they are. The Predator has them down and the Reaper has them up. It still doesn't quite look like a Reaper. I like these pylons. They always remind me of the war coming back empty. It does have a bit of a laser designator, so you could use this to designate targets for your Excalibur rounds. That's unique. One thing that's weird about it is not as stealthy as you think it is. I wonder how high it flies. Right? It should have a pretty good stealth factor. If it's going to be able to engage by like other units, it might be pretty weak to have this unit on the battlefield. This might be like a late game recon. I'd still see it in a regular. Like, right, if you look at a lot of the drone footage from the UKR war, like the Russo-Ukraine conflict, a lot of the drone stuff still feels really like not used in this aspect. Like, these don't make that much of an appearance on the battlefield. I know they have, but we haven't seen a lot of footage with them. Pararescue Rangers. We're going to take a look at the Pararescue guys, Air Force PJs. Looks like they're in like marine camis, but I don't know. And smaller backpacks makes sense. 249 Scar, no real anti-tank on them. These will not be used that way, so the ranges might be better. They do have bigger packs on them. They do have their little hair going on. These guys are in OCPs. I don't know if these guys are in ABUs. We've phased out ABUs. I know these aren't ABUs. I'm not saying, oh, look at these ABUs. But I don't know what's going on right here. Tan boots. I like this vehicle. Another up armored guy driving it. You can have it. I mean, at least his shoulders are protected. I really enjoy that. And then ammo in the back. As you see, someone learned a lesson along the way not to put ammo outside of the vehicle. Tires still at an interesting spot, but what can you do? Maybe it's going to block some rounds. Scout snipers, what's interesting about these guys is they have the lowest stealth, so they're the most stealthy. I want to see how deadly they are against infantry and if it's really worth bringing this unit along. Really lightweight, lots of stealth, good optics, 750. Not sure what that means on the battlefield quite yet, but an interesting little set 'em up ambush. I don't really see them being like that much of an asset on the battlefield other than spotting and neutralizing a few things like snipers do, right? And then here we have Frogman. This is the striker we don't see too much. I really don't like this unit's model at all, in my honest opinion. And you're going to see it a lot all the way until we get the 105 cannon on it. It really looks out of place. It looks really tall, looks very boxy, and it's kind of a bummer that we had to put like a lot of these armor packages on to like make it look decent. But it's a recon vehicle that I don't see myself using just because I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. All right, dragons phased out in the early 90s according to the Steam forums. Not quite sure how dragons are used on the battlefield anymore, or even if they are. One thing to make note of between the infantry and the infantry are the javelin teams and the weapon squad. Why would you bring the javelin team over the weapon squad, especially when you get 2 javelins, M4A1s, as well as 249s? When you bring up this team, maybe you get 4 javelins? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I know it's not any more stealthy. They just weigh more. So I don't understand this. I do like this guy's goggles. I wore those before. I like these goggles. Their armor is a bit big, and they are wearing OCPs. They got their knee pads on, man. When you got to dive on the ground, knee pads do come in clutch. Those goggles do come in clutch when you're loading people in the back of an aircraft. Stingers are going to sting, my dudes. I used them in the demo to shoot down helicopters. They have one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to shoot things out of the sky. It's every game. They don't really have a lot of adaptability. You're not going to do unique plays with them. They're just going to be in the right place at the right time. And one thing to make note is they can only engage helicopters, so a really strange unit to bring along with you. Riflemen, here come the Army and their OCPs. What do they have? M4A1s, ATA4s, AT4, rocket launchers with a 600-meter range, high explosive penetration at 400 meters. All right, these guys are going to be really close quarters, really deadly engagements, especially with the high lethality of a modern conflict. These guys aren't long for this world, and they are warriors. Marine Raiders show up. They have grenade launchers, shotguns, and MK18s. They also look to be a much bigger platoon. And they are in BDUs, which is interesting. I don't know anything about Marine Raiders, but I don't know anything about BDUs. Interesting. This guy has a beard, man. They all have beards. It's all the same guy, mostly. Then you go to your Marines. They have their Marine digital camo on. Green woodland, apparently. Bagel armor. Looks like the armor's desert. And desert backpacks. Interesting. Mechanized riflemen. I'm just being an elitist. Like I just want to point these things out because they're fun to me. Like, right? I mean, when you want to talk about something, like this is why we have comments on the forums. So this guy has M4A1s, M203s. Good. What's this M203 do? Ground infantry vehicle. What's the blast radius? 6 meters. So 12-meter diameter. Interesting. I know 400 meters because it's a quarter mile. SMAs. I used a lot of these in the demo. Not super useful, but not super bad. It's also kinetic. I didn't know that. So it's not a high explosive anti-tank. So maybe these aren't really a good anti-tank unit to bring with you. Maybe they're not anti-tank at all. Huh. They're just kinetic. Hopefully for that penetration. Vehicles. All right. We can spend all day in there. If you played the demo, you played with this vehicle. He's an angry little robot. He has his little yellow eyes. They're shining. Nothing super duper unique about him. Beyond that he's amphibious, like a little frog man. He can cross the river. Marine vehicle. load up some Marines, cross some rivers, do some water assaults. Overall, I could see that making a lot of appearances in a lot of scenarios. As we continue on, we get to this frog dude right here. All right, little amphibious guy. Nothing extremely crazily unique about him. He's amphibious as well because he looks like a little amphibious dude. Floating across, here's his ammo, his armor penetration. Obviously, his guns can change. So the Bushmaster, now he's a real frog. He went from a Squirtle to a War Turtle. And then you have your AGL. All right. Cool little vehicle. I really enjoy them. Lots of random like Humvee vehicles that you can like start with a base model. You'd be like, oh, look, do you want the Honda Civic? Or do you want the Honda Civic X? And you go, I want the Honda Civic X with that tow missile. Well, that's going to cost you 70 points, my buddy. And that's basically what you get. Little MRAP with a tow missile with a weapons package that can vary tow A, tow B, and a 240. Very, very interesting. LAV, this guy comes back up, I like this guy. He's like a cute frog. Like a little, he looks like that Pokemon, dude. Like the Pokemon with the eyes and the ears, like a little cute little fish of that meme. Red light, very deadly, especially with his toes. So maybe he's a Blastoise. Not quite sure, but that's just what he is to me. Overall, interesting. And you'll notice like a lot of these vehicles early on are really like done up, like lots of dirt on them. Like they aren't going to the wash station. Like they don't have a first sergeant or like some micromanaging NCO who's like, wash my LAVAT. You want them to see you in the dirt? I don't know. M1A1. Going to show up on the battlefield with his cannon. Going to wreak all kinds of havoc. As you see, let's see if we can find it. Right, your armor-piercing fin-stabilized rounds, 16 of them. Your 120 millimeter cannon. Overall, a Titan tear to be on the battlefield, especially with reactive armor. Someone even brought their little blankets that they can put on top. I would change the color of that, but who knows? Don't listen to me. And some random things that can fall off. We move on to the Bradley suite. You have varying types of Bradleys. I'm not going to go over every single one of them. The one that's unique, I believe I already talked about, is that it can be airdropped. So this one right here, this isn't a Bradley, this is a Sheridan, and it can be airdropped. It does have high explosives and high explosive anti-tank. Your Bradleys come with varying types of armor, varying types of sight systems. I don't know how this, what is this, a little bulldozer, a little plow is going to work on the battlefield. Ideally, I would want that further in front of me, but maybe you can put some engineers in it and you can go hunt for some IEDs or some mines. Mines haven't made an appearance in the demo yet, so I don't know if they're going to be in the main game, so I don't fully understand that. Maybe you can breach some barbed wire or some sandbags. Bury some people, depending on what war you want to talk about. Early Iraq, late Iraq, first Gulf, second Gulf, third Gulf. Here you have this ugly little war turtle. All kinds of armor on him. He really wants to survive on the battlefield. M60A1. Gunner Heat PC really makes this vehicle shine, and I like using it in that game. Nothing unique about him other than his weight, obviously stealth, and then his travel speed, health. Striker, here comes our fun little turtle dude again. Obviously, the only thing different about him is his laser systems, or his toes. Not his toes like on his feet, but like, you know, his toe that he shoots. Give him a plow. He's evolved. Now he's a Gen 2 Pokemon. Moving on, more change of the system. Browning, smoke dispensers, armor packages, reactive armor. Dragon, what's this one have? He gets himself a fancy little cannon. What's that, 173 millimeter cannon? That seems deadly. Bushmaster, 30 millimeter. 30 millimeter. All right, 30 times 100. All right, 30 millimeter cannon. I was like, 170, that's massive. Dude might as well be a tank. And then we just go back to the striker package. Right here, this is the one I'm really going to like. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to have fun with. The 105 cannon with the armor-piercing, fin-stabilizing rounds. And the HESH. I forget what HESH stands for. But I'm sure I can use that to destroy some Russian T-72s on the battlefield. And then their armor variants. Support. Welcome to support. Right? Let's all load up League of Legends and play the healer and just not have a wonderful time. All right, this is a Stinger variant, a good little anti-aircraft. I wish they would move anti-air into anti-air, but I believe that's what this is. Single missile pod, double missile pod, pursuit, helicopter aircraft, blast radius 18 meters. So this is a good little anti-air for you. This is cool. I really like this C-RAM. Hopefully, I wonder if it shoots some mortars out of the sky. I would like to see that. I can't really get the information to pop up. There it goes. C-RAM, direct shot. Is used 10 bursts. We didn't really talk about the burst or aim time. A lot of that's going to be balanced around like aim time, burst speed, things like that, reload time. It doesn't really tell you what it engages either. Penetrates high explosive anti-tank. That might be like a little merciless thing to have on the battlefield. Really cool though. Really, really cool. More of this cool little mortar, man. You just pull this guy up on the battlefield, do some irregular warfare, drop him, launch some shells, reload him, and leave. And if you're feeling froggy, maybe just shoot him off the back over the roof. I bet someone would do that. More anti-air. More anti-air is going to be anti-air. What's this guy? Lab LM. Mortars. Cool. I think we used these in the tutorial. I don't really remember. The thing about the mortars is they have a blast radius of 10 meters. So that's going to vary. Then you have this little vehicle. Yeah. LMTV. Transport. You have this to transport cargo. 20,000 cargo. This is where you get talking about some cargo. I kind of wish it wasn't being so buggy so we can actually compare some things. Paladin, this is where we have our Excalibur munitions. I don't know how these are going to be used yet. Mostly because, like, what's the point of a precision artillery if your unit's always going to be on the move? Is it going to track them with that laser designator? Is it actually going to hit them? What's it really going to do? It does have a decent blast radius of 22 meters, but if you only have 10 rounds and it targets the ground, so it doesn't target vehicles and it doesn't target infantry, so you're just really putting a really precise shot on someone. But when you're playing this tutorial, the mortars are really precise to begin with, so something to make note of. And then more mortars. Look at this guy. Look how mortary he is. He looks like a little angry dude. HIMARS. Everyone loves the HIMARS. You get your ATACMs. What game would not have that? 60,000 meter range. Put some force recon far up on the front lines and just target some strategic infrastructure, maybe some supply lines. I don't think Broken Arrow has that kind of scenario building in it. But that's what those would be good for. Linebacker. What does this guy do? Stingers. More AA. So your support's mostly your AA, your anti-air with a bit of mortars. This looks like a supply truck. I remember when I was comparing these two, and the really only difference is this guy carries supplies and he has 2 extra tires. Whereas this guy just looks like he hangs out and maybe transport troops. Patriot batteries, right? Really cool, really interesting. I want to see how they work on the battlefield. I can see them shooting down some long-range, high-altitude aircraft. We haven't gotten to the aircraft yet. Logistics is empty. So, yep, that's what you know about logistics. Self-defense package. What's that? Oh, 249s, things like that. Like, why would this be on the front lines? You know what I'm talking about? So, yeah, it has a self-defense. You can put it like a little thing on it. But this is going to be, like, far in the back. And it's going to have, like, a decent amount of range. So the fact that it has self-defense is, like, interesting. Like, why are we putting a 2.4 Browning on it? Just to engage someone? Like, this isn't going to be like a breaching vehicle or a frontline vehicle, but I guess it's good that it's there. All right, helicopters in air. Sorry, guys, I'm going as fast as I can. What stands out about these? Obviously, they have inner and outer pylons with the Cobras. If we hide some stuff, we can really take a really in-depth look at these. Marines. What's super unique is maybe more on the actual aircraft is they do put a lot of, like, insignias from bases on them or, like, units, so that's something that's unique you don't see in a lot of other games. Maybe like Steel Division, when they pull historical things, it might be easier to find. You can just change the varying weapon systems. I don't want this video to be like 45 minutes long. Apache. What's unique about the Apache? We don't know what's unique about the Apache because we don't get to see it. There it goes. ECIM is interesting. Some stealth, kind of bad vision. What's this right here? Agility. I guess there's an agility modifier. Speed, health, armor, Hydra rockets. Your 30 millimeter area of denial gun. Then you have your longbow. Kind of hard to get to pop up. It doesn't pop up. Here we go. This is what I want to see. This is what I like. The Chonkers, the Super Stallion, the carrier of aircraft. 1,400 pounds. This guy's going to be carrying in your Bradley. He'll be carrying in your Sheridan. He does have a bit of self-defense. We can put a little minigun on him if we're feeling like very softy. Some special forces. Or we can just put a Gal 50 cal on. Or a 240. Like, man, that's cool. Nose looks too round, though. You got a round nose. Only vehicle I'm going to be using. Osprey, obviously the CV-22s. The difference between these is I think one carries units and one carries people. So this one carries supplies, right? Or it's a heavy lift, so this can carry maybe a vehicle. I don't think it can carry like the Sheridan or anything. Or the Bradley. Those are way too much. I don't know what this is going to carry. Then you have your regular old Hueys, your Nighthawk, your MH-60s. Nothing really unique about them. They're just going to be transport vehicles. And I mean, just some Vietnam scenarios with some of this older equipment's going to be so cool. Look, you have like your rescue thing, lower some people down, door guns, pylons, rockets. Yeah. This is the only this vehicle you need, the Super Stallion you need, the Predator or the Reaper. And then we move on to the Warthog. Right? I don't know. Warthog. Cool vehicle. Cool little airframe. I thought this gun was bigger. Is that gun bigger? It looks really small. Maybe it's so small because they tried to put it on different vehicles. The GAU. No, GAU Avenger, work in progress. So it's a work in progress. We don't have a full view of it. I don't know. It just looks tiny. It looks like a little dinky thing. You can different pylons. I mean, people do this video way better than me, and they're just like, oh, if you like come in with this ammunition type, like these 500-pound JDAMs, and you look at them. Actually, I do want to talk about the JDAMs. JDAMs. This is so funny to me. So blast radius 32 meters. Blast radius. Am I on the right thing? 129 meters. That's really funny to me because if we go to the B1, and we're just going to jump around right now because I don't care. Because we need something to compare it to. So we have the B1, high altitude strike bomber, definitely going to be engaged by a missile battery, right? And we go to loadout, and we go all the way down to tactical nuke, right? This is so funny to me because its blast radius of this tactical nuke's only 400 meters, so maybe it's like a small little half a kiloton nuclear warhead. But when you compare it to like the JDAM and everything else, like this is like, oh, look, this AGM 200 meters. And it would be interesting to know if there's like any electromagnetic interference or stuff like that when you drop a nuke, or any like toxicity, radiation. I don't think there is. It doesn't seem like the game that's going to have that kind of feature. All right, so this is just really interesting to me. So if you come over here, you can see like this is part of the Black Snakes, Indiana, I believe. Fort Wayne. I think Fort Wayne's out there. I don't know. They did get a lot of things right on this aircraft. The wheels. I think it's a really legacy aircraft that you can know very easily. I'm a little disappointed with the Spooky. We've moved past the Spooky. I mean, obviously you can have like a AC-130U, but we're at I forget what it's called, the MC-130, where it's a mobile bomb truck where you just load like precision guided munitions in it. And I think that's where we're at with these, especially in a peer-to-peer engagement, right? You're going to be operating at like a standoff range. You're not going to be like, this vehicle is not going to be flying around with stingers in the battlefield and other anti-air. It's going to be like at its maximum engagement range, shooting off little JDAMs, dropping pallet munitions, and blowing things up for your soft forces. So this is a little weird to me. I think it's cool that it's in the game. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm like sounding like, oh, Joe, just everything doesn't have to be that way, Joe. It could just be over there, and it could pop flares, and you could like evac it and do all this micro with it, and it's gonna be so cool. And I'm sure it's gonna be cool. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not gonna be cool. What is this? This is a C too. Or this is just a normal C-130. It's not even a J. I don't think they make a J on that variant. It's just something I noticed. Like a lot of developers are a bit behind on what's like the changing of like tactics in the military. So it's cool that this is in here, but I think, and we still actively used on the battlefield, but we're kind of moving past. We're with a peer-to-peer conflict, it's going to be more standoff, right? He's not going to be flying in an area of air defense. I mean, he'll get shot down. I mean, my bro, you're gonna shoot the spooky ghost, the spooky down. You won't be around anymore. The Harrier looks really small, especially after looking at like some of these other vehicles. He's a tiny dude. I don't know if he's tiny in real life, but he does look really, really small. Itsy bitsy, like a little spider. I like this little vehicle. I wonder how it's going to be on the battlefield. This is something I would see in like. So you have a lot of equipment in Broken Arrow. Where is this going to play in, right? You're not going to use like this Harrier with F-22s or like, I mean, you could, so it seems like it's cool that this equipment's in it, but it's kind of strange at the same time. So I don't know what the time error, and it's just going to be shot down. So what you're going to have is you're just going to have like Harriers acting like F-18s. Like they can't be like poorly balanced, because then you're going to have like, man, the Harrier is such a cool plane. And you just made it absolutely bad, and then you're going to be like, the dad's going to be like, well, it's an F-22. Obviously, it's better than a Harrier. Or I don't know the Russian airframes. I'm sorry, MiGs and Sus, 57s, 27s, 47s. I don't know them. I apologize. We'll take a look at them later. So I want to see how it's going to be on the battlefield. Obviously, it's going to come with harms, sidearms, Mavericks, all your standard JDAMs, things like that. I don't think I need to break down every single weapon system, especially when like, oh, cool, you're gonna bring a Harrier in with like 18 rockets and some bombs. Cool. It'll be fun to use. It'll be fun to watch explode, but I'm interested to see how it's balanced on the battlefield. Then we move on to more Harrier. Looks more like a Harrier. Oh, that one looks weird. Oh, I guess they both look like that. B-1B obviously looks like a B-1B. I'm interested to know at what height it flies and what kind of weapon system it needs to be engaged with. I think it's cool that it's making an appearance. I don't really like it that much, honestly. I'm not going to lie. That's my personal opinion. It's not a bad airframe. It's not a bad aircraft. It's not bad to include. It just looks boring to me. F-18. Look at this bad boy. F-18E. Comes with weapons. Comes with a little red screen. Don't know why he has a little red screen, why that would be turned on, but it just stands out to me. Obviously, you just get different types of missiles, and all this will be like talked about like when you're like prepping, like doing milsim stuff in my scenarios. Like, all right, we're going to have an F-18. He's going to loiter. He's going to have all those anti-air AMRAAMs, and he's going to shoot down spy balloons. F-18F probably just has varying weapon systems. The Tomcat, man, I'm kind of disappointed that they like have the wings spread out, but it makes sense. Back might be cool. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Grim Reapers, I believe Eglin, maybe. Honestly, I'm also like, man, that should be the Jolly Rogers, right? It should be a Jolly Rogers. I know this is well known, like the Reapers are well known, but every time I see like the Super Hornet or like, yeah, like this Super Tomcat, I think of or Tom F-14 in general, I think of Jolly Roger. The fuselage looks good. Honestly, it looks like one of the better fuselages. They do have a bunch of bullets, a bunch of missiles. I don't like, this bothers me about the F-15 too. I don't know if they should black that out, but it looks really bad. I don't know. I've never seen one up close. You guys let me know in the comments if you like that, if you don't like that. It also looks like they just pulled these over from the F-15. F-15, as you see, just what I was talking about. Same thing. They almost look identical. I also don't know if like the ailerons, what were these? Are these ailerons function? They just look solid. And this is where I'm just going to critique everything, right? Here we go. We hide this HUD right here. We come over here, 120th fighter wing, do the rudders work. What does the jets look like? Intakes. Do they look like they're going to function, or is it just going to be a flying spaceship? Montana, huh? Does Montana still exist? Tomcat, F-15, F-15E Strike Eagle, LN. Who is LN? Air Force 602. Greatest Air Force in the world. Bothered by this so much. This one looks a little better. I don't like that texture. Lots of bombs. This is like a bomb truck. Man, this is perfect. Just level everything. All right, here we have it. The Spy Platoon Destroyer in its... Look at it in all its glory. See, and they blacked out these ones. So, like, these are blacked out, but you go to the F-15E and the Super Hornet, and you're like, okay, why aren't these blacked out? So these are blacked out. I don't know why he has these little catfish whiskers. I don't think the F-15 or F-22 has catfish whiskers. They need to go. I looked at images, but you let me know. This is wrong. F-22 doesn't stand out that much. Looked at pictures. I am now a Google professional. Don't mess with me. I will cite Google. All right, there's the jets. Overall, do these look like they move? Not really. Might be a flying Dorito. All right, too much. Blacked out. Move that to the F-15. And this one doesn't even have a squadron. Probably based out of Eglin. I think that's F-35 now. And obviously, if you have F-35s, right? F-35 looks more normal. It's weird that they put like more work. Like this is kind of what the F-22s kind of looks like. They also opened up the bomb bays, but if you compare that to the F-22, the bomb bays don't open. Port bay, obviously, it's a work in progress, so that's going to change. They also have like a squadron for this. It's like New Jersey Grim Reapers. So it's like they don't really know what to do. This must be a new ad because there's not really a lot of detail to it. Like, that's wrong. So what else has those? I wonder if they pulled those from something. I don't know what they would have gotten them from. That's interesting. Kind of looks like a Mirage. All right, well, he's a catfish. We'll name him Robert. And that is the review. I don't like doing these guys. If you like them, please let me know.